Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries, and I do thank you for joining us on this edition of the End Time Show. Revelation 13, verses 16 through 17, it prophesies of a time coming when every person will be required by the Antichrist and the false prophet and the world governing system to have a numbering system put in place. Everybody's going to have their own unique identification number. Without that, no one will be able to buy or sell anything. Scripture states, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." Now, there are already many nations that are functioning under a national ID system. It's a national ID card. And without that card, there's no government subsidies, no job, no travel, no education, no insurance, no health care. You almost can't function as a citizen without that national ID card. Many nations are functioning like that as we speak. But there's going to come a time when everything goes digital. The economic system is one of the big things. That will be kind of the final thing that goes digital, because once it goes digital, then they can control everything in your life. Your ability, what goes into your account, your bank account, what goes out of your account, what you can buy, and economically sanction you using your bank account, which would inhibit your ability to function in society. So in order to get the number, everyone will be forced to worship, or kind of like a pledge of allegiance to the Antichrist and this global governing system. But according to the Bible, anyone who pledges allegiance to the Antichrist will be eternally damned. So it's something that you absolutely cannot participate in this end time scenario that we're going into. The system the Bible prophesies for the days of the Antichrist, which will be the time just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. The Antichrist is going to come on the scene, and he's going to rule for 3.5 years. The Bible says he will make war with the saints during that time. So it's that 3.5 years that we're talking about here. And because the mark of the beast can't come on the scene until the Antichrist comes on the scene. This system could not be set up until right now. It was not possible. Though the prophecy, it's a 2,000-year-old prophecy, its fulfillment has only recently become possible with new technologies, the invention of the computer, the birth of the internet, and now blockchain technology, and the use of digital forms of payment. It's only till now that it has been made possible for this type of a system to be set up whereby everybody, every person on the planet really can be tracked and controlled economically. They're saying that there are about 1 billion people on the earth today that are not truly numbered, and I would say able to be controlled by a number, and they're doing everything they can. The World Bank, the ID 2020 by the United Nations, they're doing everything they can. It doesn't matter if they're homeless, if they live in a dirt floor building or somewhere out in the woods. They want to make sure, they say, hey, we don't want anybody to be left behind, but it's so much more than that. They don't want anybody to exist that they can't control. That's what it all is boiling down to. It's not conspiracy theory, and you're going to understand that by the end of the next 2 segments here. So again, to administer the economic sanctioning system, commonly referred to as the mark of the beast, the global financial system, it almost has to move away from physical cash and go onto a digital platform. And I'm going to explain that to you in many different ways today, how the elites, these globalists, are trying to do this as we speak.
As soon as you say end time, they say, whoa, the end of the world. When's it going to be? And you can see this mask of fear. not telling you the time is coming. I'm telling you, you live in it right now. Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 4. The first beast was like a lion. We have the eagle used continually to depict the United States of America. You see it on governmental documents. We are the generation for which these that you will not miss one segment of understanding end time, because I've had many people tell me it's changed their life forever. Many of the major prophecies of the Bible are given to us 2, 3, some of them as high as 4 or 5 times. There is not any chance it's not going to happen, because it's in your Bible, it's prophesied, and the prophecies always come back.
So, according to, when we talk about moving off of a cash system and onto a digital-based system, according to ecommercetips.com, 2/3 of adults worldwide are now using digital payments. That's 89% in the United States. And then 90% of central banks are exploring central bank digital currencies, which would allow central banks to control basically your bank account, everything that goes in, everything that comes out. They would have a track record of everything you do. Cash is freedom. If I give you a $100 bill, you can go do whatever you want to with it. You could buy, now God forbid you would buy drugs, but you could go buy drugs, or you could go buy a case of water, several cases. It's freedom. You can do whatever you want to. So it's galling those that want to control your life. So they are trying to move us off of a cash system onto a digital system. Now, some of them would say, oh, that we don't have any intentions of doing that. But that's a problem, because we've already seen people be economically sanctioned in different nations around the world. Remember the truckers up in Canada. Trudeau didn't like what they were doing, so he seized, or actually he froze their bank accounts, their business and personal accounts, to economically sanction them, to get them to quit protesting against the vaccines and things. It's the same thing that would happen across the board. Imagine the control they would have if we went on to a completely, totally digital system. Well, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So Bitcoin Magazine, they published an article sometime back called, and the title was On the Brink of a Dramatic Change, the Digitalization of Money. And I want to describe a video that I want you to watch, because there's a lady that's going to talk on here. She's talking at a world government summit. And she is saying that we're on the brink of a dramatic change, and that we want to go into a digitalized monetary system, which would move us away from cash onto a complete digital system. I want you to hear the video in her own words, and then we'll take a deep dive into this. Here's the video.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The U.S. is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
Now, did you hear, obviously you heard what she just said. She's talking about a new world order. She's talking about having the ability to monitor and to track and have a record of all of the transactions, both the money that goes into your account, the money that comes out of your account. If we go digital, the government could absolutely economically sanction anybody, because the central banks, if you understand what a central bank is, our central bank, the Federal Reserve here in the United States, it has nothing to do with the government. It's actually the entity that is part of running our government. They control the economy here in the United States. Our Congress, the Constitution gives our Congress the power to control the economy. But the Federal Reserve Act back in 2013 took the power away from Congress and gave it to a cabal, a cartel of private bankers called the Federal Reserve. That's our central bank here in America. Central banks run the nations of the world. Go to Russia, China, even Israel, Europe. They all have central banks, and they're the ones that control in the economies. And they're part of this globalist cabal that is running the economy of the world. And so about 90% of the central banks, I think it's just over 90%, are looking into rolling out a central bank digital currency now. Moving away, they're saying, well, we'll never go away from cash. We're going to go, we're just going to kind of have a parallel system, a cash system and a digital system. You and I both know that there will come a time when they're going to try to move us off of cash onto a totally digital system. That's what Pippa, her name is Pippa Malmgren. She talked about this in the World Government Summit back in 2022. She's saying we want to move onto a completely digital system. I mean, it's a revolutionary speech about this new financial system. And again, it was a World Government Summit. I want to make sure you understand that. These are globalists, people that are looking to establish a world governing body. It's actually the ongoing fulfillment of a Bible prophecy, but they're not even hiding it anymore. It's called a World Government Summit. And at that, it was in Dubai back in, this was 2022. Now here we are in 2024, and this lady's name is Philippa Malmgren. She's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, part of the establishment of the deep state here in America. She's part of the Chatham House. Her father, his name was Harold Malmgren. He served as a senior advisor to U.S. Presidents, let's see, I think it was Kennedy, Nixon, and I believe Ford, and I think there were some others. And so Pippa here, she's a technology entrepreneur and economist, and she served as special assistant to President George W. Bush for economic policy on the National Economic Council, and is a former member of the President's Working Group on financial markets and corporate governance. And now here she's saying, hey, there's a new thing coming, and it's going to be digital. It's a new monetary platform. And she's saying that's the way we can only see how everybody's being taken care of by a new world order, is that everybody's happy and everybody's doing good and everybody's engaged in this new digital financial system. So a lot of what she's talking about is very, very prophetic. There's going to be a new world order established. A new world order is world government. And it's going to use a global economic sanctioning system to get people to bow down to its edicts. That's why I wanted you to hear the video of her saying that, because there's so much prophecy involved in that video when you break it down. So Pippa's words about the transition to a new world order that requires a new financial structure, it corresponds well with the word of French President Emmanuel Macron back in June of 2023, when he said at the Global Finance Summit in Paris that the world needs a public financial shock to fight global warming, and the current system is not suitable for dealing with the world's challenges. And then the president of Brazil, Lula da Silva, they called on for a clean slate and said that the Bretton Woods organizations, which the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, do not serve their goals nor respond to society's needs. So, investigative journalist Whitney Webb, she claims that a new international monetary system is taking shape. Some call it the new Bretton Woods moment that needs to be seized to create a new global financial governance. Now, when they say new financial governance, I know what the Bible says in Revelation 13, 16 through 18, that everybody's going to be given their own unique identification number. And without that, they're not going to be able to buy or sell. They're not going to be able to participate economically during the time of the Antichrist in society. And this is exactly the system that these people are setting up. It would give them the ability to do that. Pippa here said that it was going to be blockchain, or it was going to be digital. When you look at technology today, to implement this type of a system, again, cash is freedom. The government can't track you. The government can't control you with that. But if we go digital, they could control everybody under the sound of my voice with just the click of a button. And I know it sounds almost conspiratorial, but it's not. This is not conspiracy theory. This is very real. And I'm going down through an article here, but I've only taken some excerpts from the article, and I only showed you one video of many, where there's many of these global governing officials that are saying we've got to go onto a digital platform, move away from cash. The United Nations has what's called the Better Than Cash Alliance. And its sole reason for existence is to work with governments and entities to get them to move off of cash. These governments move away from cash onto a completely digital platform. It's called the Better Than Cash Alliance. They work with the United Nations, the seat of the world government in the earth today. So Webb here, she said this in a recent sit-down interview where she mentioned that according to Mark Carney, he was a former governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada and the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. He said that there are three pillars of the new multipolar world. And they are, here's what the goal that they have. They want to move everybody onto digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, and ESG, which is pushing socialism, using socialism economic control over businesses. It's socialism 101. It's just a soft sell. That's what ESG is. It is putting kind of like a socialist noose around the neck of businesses and say, if you line up, if you'll be a woke business, then we'll push you in with BlackRock and with State Street and with Vanguard and these asset management companies. We'll push your company in that, and we'll get people to invest in you, and you can get loans. But if you're not, then we'll blacklist you, and we won't get people to invest in your companies and things. That's ESG 101. It's socialism. And then different things through digital IDs, CBDCs, ESG, through a global carbon market. So they've got ways of controlling businesses and things like that, but they want to bring it down onto an individual level. All world governments are pushing this agenda, and that in order for it to succeed, all monetary systems and supporting systems, this is what she's saying, is that they must become digital or rely on digital data. The only way for this to work is for us to move away from cash, away from the shekel, from the yen, or from any other physical currency, and move onto a digital platform. Now, there are people that are resisting this and fighting against it. And how it will it be fully implemented here in the United States? I don't have the answer to that, because the Bible says that we will be standing against the world governing system with Israel all the way throughout the end time. So I don't know. And Donald Trump just recently said that if I become president, we'll never implement a central bank digital currency in the United States of America. There are many states that are pushing back against this and resisting a central bank digital currency becoming a means of currency in their state. So it's important to get the right governor in your state, right? And it's of utmost importance, really. So a good example of this, of moving away from the cashless society onto a digital platform, it was revealed at an event of the central bank in Israel with the Bank for International Settlements. Yes, Israel does have a central bank. I mean, imagine King David and all these guys yielding Israel up to this world governing body. Central bank digital currency, they're controlling Israel's economy. Well, back in September of last year, 2023, in Tel Aviv, there was a meeting where the Genesis project was presented. And as part of this project, green bonds are issued based on carbon quotas in the central bank digital currency infrastructure. And this is how the climate agenda is linked to financial structures. Everything's going digital, and they can create fiat money from nothing and print as much as they want, and their pockets are just bottomless. And they can do whatever they want to, and they can tie in businesses with all this just at the click of a button, everybody. So one of the things I wanted to mention to you on the program today was debt serfdom, becoming the borrower is slave to the lender, right? There are so many people that are so burdened down with debt that you become a slave to the lender. That can happen as a business, as a nation, as an individual. Well, Mark Goodwin, he's editor-in-chief of Bitcoin Magazine. He says this, and I'm quoting, "Stable coins could be the way in which the U.S. is further globalizing the dollar, spreading its adoption directly to the world's general public in order to continue increasing its debt and encourage uptake and usage of the dollar." So he suggests that the politicians' outcry of this de-dollarization and the weakening of the dollar are distractions from perpetuating the dollars as the world's reserve currency, which it has been for years. So they say that while CBDCs are what people are becoming fearful and aware of, it may just be the red herring, and the real strategy of the U.S. dollar's survival is highly regulated stablecoins, such as Tether, which can easily be programmable, even more than CBDCs, as well as seized, regulated, and controlled indirectly by governments. That's the goal of all of it, is to control this economic sanctioning by the governments. $100 billion in treasuries were already purchased by Tether and its subsidiaries and owners. Tether is positioned alongside the top 20 nation states buying debt from the United States, buying our debt with around 1/10 of China or Japan that have $1 trillion of debt to the U.S. So this theory, together with words of people like Mark Carney, Pippa Malmgren, which you just watched a video of, Emmanuel Macron, Lula da Silva, it joins the calls of global leaders and heads of states that are pointing to the replacement of the current monetary and financial world order to introduce a new monetary system. Many experts say that we are reaching the end of the current fiat monetary system experiment, which is destined to collapse. It has to. They're printing money like there's no tomorrow. Inflation is skyrocketing. So since the world leaders are aware of this, they prefer to engineer a controlled demolition to maintain control and steer the course. They're not just going to let it fly off the handle and just go crazy. No, they're not going to do that. This is all controlled. This is by grand design. And to enter the new era with power firmly within their grasp. Okay? I knew once the major corporations were getting ready to start taking Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for a means of currency other than the dollar bill, I knew that our government, the Federal Reserve, was going to attack that and potentially push out their own. Well, guess what's happened? Just after that, when Elon Musk, he came up with an announcement that said, hey, I'm getting ready to take Bitcoin as payment for Teslas, the Tesla vehicles that he makes, I thought, man, and I had a friend of mine telling me these major corporations are getting ready to sign big deals and are getting ready to receive cryptocurrencies as payment for these retail shops. I thought, here we go. It wasn't just maybe a month or two after that. Here comes Joe Biden out with the executive order. Well, because so many people have been taken advantage of because of cryptocurrencies, we're looking into implementing our own government approved and backed by the government, which makes you feel wonderful, doesn't it? Our own central bank digital currency. Well, let's talk about central bank digital currency systems. Central bank digital currencies, they tie the financial freedom of citizens to the government and the banking establishment. Again, cash is freedom. If you get a paycheck, and then you go cash it at the bank, you can go do anything you want to with that money. But when it's digital, the government will know every single thing you're doing with your money. Everything. And so that's one of the things that central bank digital currencies, why people don't like that. I don't want the government knowing what I'm doing. And so we'll come back, we'll talk a lot more about central bank digital currencies in a moment on the other side of the break.